And we're live again. Good to see you, Josh.
Good to see you. Hey, guess what?
What?
As the loading bar was going, I reached for my glass of water. And I didn't quite tip it over, but there's a giant splash. So events have happened in like 10 seconds. So yeah, one sec.
No problem.
The day I'm not clumsy will be a great day.
It keeps life interesting.
All right. I'm here.
For those watching on the stream, we're going to do things a little bit differently today than normally. We're still going to show some code and we're still going to write some things, but we're also going to reserve a good chunk of time just for chatting. So please feel free to chime in the chat. If not, then Josh and I will just banter amongst ourselves. It's Friday for both of us, I think. I don't think you're that far ahead in time zones that you're in the future.
What, Friday?
Isn't it Friday?
It is.
Or is it Monday? Oh, it's Monday. It's Friday. Oh, that's how much I am off base. So I'm still not recovered from the weekend. So that's it. It feels like it should be Friday, and we're now on Monday. So, but anyway, we're gonna go a slow roll into the week, I suppose.
Yes,
that's a better.
I'm super down for that. Wait, just to clarify, because we were talking about stuff to do for Friday, but that you meant for today.
I did, but because
great. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, that's for Friday. Yeah, sure.
I had a very busy weekend, so my brain's not fully awake.
Oh, fine. Okay, great.
I think it felt like Friday because I spent the mornings on the weekend working on the project I was telling you about. So I started writing a Go CLI to do the OCI export like we were working on. And so maybe that was why. I don't know. But so here's another funny, we'll just go on a little tangent here. So another funny story. So I have a 4-month-old, and when he was born, my youngest brother asked, like, hey, when can we come and visit? And this is back in February. And I was like, I texted him back because this is where my mind, like how off my mind was. I was like, well, come in July. Because he's like, oh, I want to give you and your wife some time, to get used to the new baby and not interrupt, but we would love to see him. And I was like, well, come in July, which is, months and months away. And my brain, that was next month.
Right.
Like 3 weeks away for whatever reason. So yeah, I guess my brain just skips time sometimes. So that might just be a behavior pattern of Josh. I don't know.
Yeah. That's funny. My partner has something like very similar. Like they have ADHD, and like time sometimes just like it goes like non-linearly. As someone who like doesn't have ADHD, it's really funny to observe because I'm like, no, but
I do have that as well. So ADHD. So yeah, it just skips. Maybe that's the common thread there, where my brain would just. It's like a good mental model or visual to see is it's like those old hard drives that had spinning discs, and there's a scratch, and it just skips a big blanket of whatever. That's what my brain does. Like, oh, we're just gonna skip 4 days.
Yeah. Anyway, happy Friday, everyone. Yep.
We'll just roll with it and see if the world kind of converges to my reality.
That's right. Why change when we can change the world? Yeah, I'm super keen to. So you were telling me a little bit about your project. I'm super keen to learn more about it.
Hopefully you'll be impressed. So I'm on my Ubuntu system. I dual booted my desktop. Thanks for the shout out, Techdivis. Happy Friday to you as well. Let's start a Twitter trend or an X trend right now. Like today is Friday.
Yes.
Everybody, confirm our reality here.
Oh, yay. Sai's in chat. Hey, Sai.
Another side. Have you watched Dark Matter TV series?
Ooh, I have watched 4 episodes, and I think they're like 8 or something now.
Yeah. So maybe that's where my world's operating, and I'm just entering it in and out of different worlds. So it's a really good series. I enjoy it. If anybody kind of like sci-fi thriller type movies or TV shows. But anyway, what I have here, let's start in Explorer. So I'm finally getting to some level of competency with NeoVim and Tmux. My only complaint right now is my LSP is pretty slow, so I'll have to probably redo a new one. But anyway, what I have here is a little project. It's messy right now. I haven't
Okay.
kind of refactored it in anything. So please
Mhm.
feel free to code shame me. I don't care. I'll
Okay. I
fix it
mean,
here.
I won't, but
Anybody in chat that's got some good Go experience. But let's just close that window so it's nicer. But what I downloaded the OCR artifact that we did before. So I've
Mhm.
been using this as a reference. So this
Mhm.
is what I think this is the HTTP. If we look in the blah, one of these is the digest. That's the binary.
For people in chat who are unfamiliar with what OCI is, it is a container format that you can package
Yes.
Docker images in, but also WebAssembly components. Um,
Yeah, and so this happens to be the HTTP because it's exporting that. So that's what
yes.
that's what I downloaded. I just used the ORAS tool. You actually can't use the Docker command that it tells you in the repository
Mm,
because it's an unsupported format from Docker currently. But you
right.
can use the ORAS copy command. So ORAS is another
Right.
command line tool to manipulate and modify OCR artifacts. So I
Right.
use
Right.
that to download and copy it and extract the image layout, what's called the image layout to here. And what it looks like is this: is you got an image index,
Uh huh.
which is here. Oh, look at this. I did a
Oh,
little key mapping to format JSON. Fancy,
lovely.
fancy.
Very nice.
Yeah, no right clicking for me. Anyway, so this is like kind of explaining the entire image, and then inside there it has the different components. So what I
Uh-huh.
needed to do is recreate this because I looked up the Go's packages for OCI. There are some packages that have types and stuff defined to create your own OCI formats. And I looked at that a while ago
Mhm.
when I was doing containers from scratch, which was fun. But they didn't have, of course, they don't have the spec yet for the WASM components, for WASI components. So
Who doesn't have the spec yet?
the packages for OCI and like
Right.
the GitHub packages, so their
Yes.
libraries don't support it.
Yes.
That would be a good PR to do. But what I decided to do was like, this is just JSON. JSON is really easy to generate with Go with types. You just marshal, unmarshal. So
Uh-huh.
I started defining my own types and then recreating it. And I found out how you have to actually do the hashing.
Mhm.
So now the goal is to basically recreate this folder structure with a Go
Uh-huh.
command line tool that I can upload. And so I'll have like a pull command and push command eventually on the command line. Right now, I'm just
Lovely.
generating them to disk. And you can see my work. If we go here, I'm able to
Uh-huh.
get the binary hashed
Okay.
and I'm able to get the config. And so what I was working on this morning was getting the manifest
Okay.
configured. So with that, let's take a look at what I've built so far.
Yes. Okay.
So here,
How many lines is this?
this is 267.
Okay. Okay. So it's
Well,
like
I lie because this is old. I don't need
okay,
this.
okay,
So it's
okay.
about 200. It's a little over 200 lines.
Okay, okay, okay. I just wanted to like get a you don't have a mini map, so I was like, I wonder like how big this is because you might have been like, oh, it's like 10,000 lines. I
Oh
haven't
no, no,
really
no.
spent time coding.
I'm
No,
not
no, no.
I'm not that proficient yet.
Okay, okay.
So
But like
yeah,
200 lines for like a basic version seems like it's fairly doable. Also, time you got it done in.
yeah, I was happy with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it gave me a good project to kind of sharpen my skills on.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, let's look at this. We'll skip the types for now because what I want to do is go into the create WASM layer
Okay.
just to show.
Okay. Is that your entry point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right now it's all just functions. So it's so I have a scripting
Uh,
background. So my default is just
mm,
like functions everywhere and call functions to functions.
I see.
And then when I have it working, I typically refactor to like methods and objects and or
I
types and
see.
Go and stuff like that. So,
Got it.
yeah, that's my go-to because my background is PowerShell. That's for my first official language that I learned in, and so it's
Mm.
kind of my default.
Nothing wrong with that as long
Yeah.
as you get something working, right?
Right. Eventually I'll get there. We'll see. But yeah, the create WASM layer is interesting because if you look at, if we go into the WASM OCI layout and then
Uh-huh.
blobs and then the SHA. So like, why is SHA there? Why is SHA, the SHA folder there?
Mhm.
I could show you. So all these file names are hashed.
Right.
And so the reason for that is you want to make sure in the configs that no one's tinkered with the configurations in transit in between the original person pushing them up there and you pulling them down. So they use the hash. So it's like, oh, okay, well, how do I hash the file name? And is it just the file name or is it the entire contents? Turns out that it's the entire contents of the file.
Right.
And then they rename the file the hash value of the entire contents.
Yes.
Are
you familiar with the term for that?
No, what is that?
Content addressable storage.
I've heard that term before.
Yeah. So the name of the file is the hash of the file. So if you hash the file, you also know where it is stored, sort of.
Content addressable storage? Or
yes.
I did run across that when I was doing the containers, but I didn't make the connection.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Click the wrong button.
Yeah. Thank you for
He's like, that's
goodbye, Josh.
You teach me something, you disappear.
You've met your quota. Goodbye. Okay.
And he's gone. All right. So yeah, we create the hash, rename it. So I create a directory structure for that. This is probably the messiest of all because it's the first one that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And then I create the file and then copy in the contents to it. And then I have to do OSStat to get the size because in the manifests, they have the size. So then down here, I return the hash string because I need that elsewhere. I actually need to put that in the config and I need to put that in the manifest itself to define the layers. So I return that and I'll return the size and then an error if need be. So that's step one. Step two, I've got a lot of print debugging stuff in here, but step two is to create the OCI Wasm config. So the configuration is where all the imports and exports for the component were, which actually I had a good question for you with WASI Clippy. Like, how would we programmatically discover the export imports? Like, could I read the WIT-bind file, or is there anything in the binary that I could pull or metadata?
So you mean programmatically discovered imports and exports of the .wasm file, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So, so we have a .wasm at that point, and we would need to. Actually, this might be tricky. We would need to read, interpret the .wasm file because it is described as part of it. So it's a binary format, and in the header it will be like, "Hello, I am type WASM." OCI stands for too many acronyms. Okay.
Agreed. There's a lot. Continue. I'm sorry.
And then there's somewhere in the header, like right after "Hello, I'm WASM," there's I am a WASM component, and then there will be a section that describes the imports and exports. Okay. I believe that might even be a custom section of the binary, and so we would want to read that and then translate that to OCI. And the way we do it in Rust, there's a WASM parser crate.
Okay.
That will just give you the type spec out.
Okay, so we need something similar to that for Go.
Yes, or we can create bindings to it, to WASM parser, which may even exist.
How does that work? Binding part, from
Go to C, for example.
Oh, okay. So just go a level down because they both depend on those libraries. Okay.
Yeah. So Go has its own memory model, or I don't know if memory model is the right thing, but it runs inside of a runtime. The way it handles memory and allocations and GC and stuff, it's all custom. But then they have a bridge API to C. I've never used it, but supposedly they can interop with C code, but through the runtime somehow. And what we would then do is take the Rust library, compile it to C, or with a C API in front, and then bring that in, get it through the bridge, and get a Go API on the other side, which is probably a lot of work.
I love how embedded in your mind the idea of WebAssembly is, though, because your first instinct is always can we get these to talk to each other? Like, why do we need to rewrite this in a different language?
Yeah. Actually, finally, probably do it. Like we could do it. This is kind of what Wasm was built for as well, or like components was built for as well. We could stick a component parser inside
Oh,
of
that'd be
like a
hilarious
component. Yeah.
to discover itself. Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
kinda. I mean, well, it's not that bad of an idea.
Kind of solve the chicken and the egg dilemma right there. You
Yeah.
know,
Also known as it's not quite self-hosting, but it's close.
it's closest I've seen. There we go. Okay, well, it's possible. For right now,
Yes.
I've just put in plain text because I'm just
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get the files to generate. So yeah, that's the OCI. I can put a nice space here.
Ooh, what you could also do is you could um, shell out to Wasm tools
Okay.
and then do the Wasm tools component wit or something. Or yeah, there's a wit command that will print out all dependencies, and then you just like do a simple parse of that, and then use that to encode it.
Okay.
That might be easiest. Yeah. Okay. And
okay. Well, we have
sorry.
options. Yeah.
Yes.
No
Yes.
worries.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So yes, so I create the OCI config, and so this has just got a bunch of types. I won't go into the above, but some type embedding that I'm doing with component. And so here's where you can see where I'm just filling in the fake data to do in later. And then hard coding the author. Now that would be cool because like we found before, we can just detect this from the project metadata.
Yeah.
And then just adding a stamp of whenever it was generated.
Yeah.
And then hard coding these because these don't change across them. So these can be static in here, the architecture and OS for the manifest or the configuration. And then it takes the digest and component.
Okay.
So if you looked at what this looks like finished.
Whoa, what was that screen? I don't think I've seen that before.
This one?
Yeah.
This is Telescope. So it's a
Oh,
fuzzy finder in NeoVim.
but I
It's
love
awesome.
the preview on it.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I can just tab through. So I don't have to like search. I actually don't use NeoTree as much anymore. I think I'm using NVimTree.
Yeah.
I usually use this now. So you can do find file, which is this. You can do a live grep.
Oh yeah.
So if I wanted to do like config, just look for that.
God, that's nice.
What is there? And buffer. So you can also search your buffers. So here's my open buffers.
Perfect.
Which I use that before because I have maps to go previous and next. So when you see me switch screens like that, I'm just hitting some leader P, leader N to navigate back and forth through the buffers. But then I get like 12 buffers and I'm like, I don't know what's what. So here.
I haven't used NeoVim in like almost 5 years now.
Oh wow.
I definitely haven't used Telescope. So seeing this, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh yeah. So nice. That was kind of the last bit for me because I ran into basically I had to search for a keyword. I was trying to figure out something in the code base. Like, where is this function used? I can't define it in VS Code or in here. It wouldn't, just the definition wouldn't load. So I wanted to search for it with the live grep. Don't do that to me. And so Telescope is the answer. But Tech Doofus is in the chat. He's been my mentor with NeoVim. He's been helping me out. You can also specify the flags passed to the compiler by writing comments.
Oh no! Oh no! The
plot thickens.
For context, like Sai is also works at Microsoft. C++ advocate, like knows a lot about compilers. So starting a sentence with "Oh my god," that's an expert opinion. Oh my god!
So there's many ways. Yeah, Telescope does save lives. We'll share that one too. There we go.
Nice.
All right, so there's that, and then essentially it's just like marshaling it in, and then getting the file size. So what I'm doing now, where we can pick up, is I was trying to get the manifest to work. I'm gonna go down a little bit. So I've got the configuration, and now I need to call the function I wrote for the manifest. So
Okay.
Let's see here. Create manifest. There. And
Ooh, I love that autocomplete too. Oh, and the inline little. This is nice. I love this. You're making me like miss NeoVim.
well, here you go.
Yeah.
Might have another convert. Back to NeoVim. Let's see
Yeah.
here. So that takes. Oh, I have to create. So I instead of passing like 6 parameters or arguments to one, I created several functions. So these would probably be like other sub methods eventually. So first I need to create the configuration block inside the manifests, not the config file, and then also the layers in there. So I think that would be, if we just did manifest, we'll just shorten it, man config to the manifest configuration. And this takes, I need the function. Create. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, I can even do this little highlight to see what I need to pass in. So I need a string and an integer. So I need an S and D, so digest and size.
Okay.
That was for the configuration. So the configuration is up above. So comp is the hash value of the name of the file for the configuration, I believe. Or no, it's actually config right here. And size, which I should probably just rename to config size. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused.
You know what would be fun?
What's up?
Sticking Wasm time inside of a NeoVim extension and creating bindings to NeoVim so you can write your extensions in any language.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
Because I'm thinking of like, why did I never extend like NeoVim? This looks so nice. I remembered like, oh, I don't like that, whatever that scripting
Lua?
language is.
Lua?
Oh, is it Lua? Oh, yeah. That's but doesn't Vim like also support like it has its own like thing? But
Yes, it
NeoVim
does.
uses Lua. Yeah. All right, Lua's not that bad. The regular Vim thing, I never quite. But I'm like, I wish I could like do it in Rust, and then like, sorry, I'm spinning out of control here. Like, I'm enjoying
No,
this
this
way
is all
too
great
much.
tangents. All great tangents. Okay, so we got the manifest, and then we need the layer. And again, this should all be kind of wrapped in a single call eventually through methods, and then the methods just call other ones to construct it. But
yeah,
to-dos, as you can see, they're sprinkled everywhere in here. All right, so the layer, though, that's actually the file, which is the component, and then the component size, like that. And so now we can create whatever this would be. Let's see here. Create manifest. Yeah. And then that takes, if we look at that, it takes a manifest config and a manifest layer. So man config, man layer. And what is, I don't know if it returns, I don't think it returns anything because it just creates the files and then it prints out inside the function right now. So it doesn't return anything. So hopefully that'll work. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's try.
I need the alias to ... to go back. I haven't ported all my bash stuff together yet.
Yeah.
I'm super happy with this because I even changed all the tmux, got rid of the status bar, changed the color of the keyboard. So I went like real far. Took a screenshot of like, what's this color in this theme? And then I uploaded to the website, gave me the hex value, and then I went and put the hex value into my themux config so it matched my NeoVim theme.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny.
It makes a happy place for you in the terminal. So it's an investment.
But just like Chad is saying, like you end up with like thousands of lines of config and customization and like.
Yeah, I'm at thousands, but if we go,
Yet.
so here you can kind of see.
Ooh, do you know about Toke?
What's Toke?
Do a cargo install. You might appreciate this.
Okay.
So the TOKEI.
Okay. Cargo. I was trying to find my right terminal. Cargo. Do I have cargo on here? I don't have cargo on this yet. So I'll have to install Rust.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
By
the way, I saw something with a .pem file. I don't know if you just showed credentials on screen.
No, it's all YubiKey stuff. So
okay, great. I was like, if you need to rotate something real quick, like
no, should all be good. So yeah, I set up passwordless login, and so like all those are stored in a different. It's referring to the PIM that has the keys in it, but those are random each time I press the thing. So.
Oh, that's nice.
That was just the file to. I can let me share the tweet because I can. Post or whatever it is because I document the steps for it. I'm really happy with it. I'm at the point where my login. I'm logged into my computer before my monitor wakes up.
Oh,
I have to hit. So with the passwordless login, I've got a UB bio key.
Yeah.
So take it out and show you. So
different.
So yeah, you just tap a keyboard and then it starts to flash green and you put your thumbprint on there and then my screen is logged in before the monitor kind of wakes up from sleep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And no long password. So here's the link to the tweet. If they're called tweets, I don't know. But there's the chat. But I'm super happy with it. I do get 2 keys for a backup because there's no recourse if you lose your key.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm super happy about it.
That's nice. Do you keep the second one in the safe somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Good.
I have 4, but the other 2 aren't biometric. So, but anyway, back to this. Let's see here. Did I remove blobs? No. So
thank you for sharing. This is fun.
Yeah. I really like the passwordless authentication. And I actually have it set up for my like sudo commands. So if I were to do that, I just hit my thumbprint again too. So. All right. Config. We've got the 3 files. So that looks like that's the config itself there. Here we have, look at this beautiful thing right here. We have our manifest.
Okay.
And then here's the binary, which is just an empty. It's a fake .wasm file.
Oh, okay. That's why size is 0 as well. Got it.
That's a good question. Did that all work? Size, yep.
But then
size. That's all back in here. So size 0 because the layers file. Yep. So.
Yep. Okay.
And if we wanted to test that, this is how I was doing it. What was my? What was the command I was using? It's escaping me.
What did the command do?
Checked file size. Where did I?
Oh, okay.
I think it
just printing it, or
yeah.
ls-la
That could work.
Is the one I do.
Oh, there was a particular one. What was it? I'll find it. ls-a. We want blob shaw. You said ls-a. What was the others?
-l-a-h.
H.
Yeah. List with details in human printable format. So I'll say kilobytes and megabytes rather than just flat bytes.
Oh, okay. Can you get it to say bytes?
That's the default. So 277, like the third line printed, that's just bytes, and then the K is like kilobytes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're right on the money with our config. So look at that. Okay, so that works. And main, there we go. So that's as far as I've gotten. I think the next thing that I would probably have to do is let's look at the tree command here. I think I need to do the index JSON and like the OCI layout stuff. And then I have to figure out how to push it. So there's probably some refactoring to do there.
Yeah. The pushing is doing the OCI wire protocol, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. I would imagine something like that.
Yeah. I wonder what it uses.
We could probably look at the Rust one that is working. Do you want to switch screens and just take a peek and go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah,
I can drive that too if you give me a link to that package you're using.
Yeah. What's it called? It's something like OCI protocol on Criteo, but it's not protocol. It uses a different word. Wasm package tools, and then it should be using cargo tunnel. OCI Wasm workspace dependencies. Okay, that's OCI Wasm, which has a dependency on OCI-distribution. Okay, so if you go to docsrs /OCI-distribution, that's the crate.
OCI.
Oh, hey, this is a crustlet crate. That's fine. Where crustlet is a Days Labs project, which is from Azure. So the OCI distribution crate is an old like Azure open source thing.
Oh, that makes sense.
One time released. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Might send in the link. I'll pull it up.
But is this useful? Huh. Okay, hold on. Yes. Wait. Where's chat? Here. Yes.
Emacs. I've never done Emacs.
Bye, Sai. Emacs? Oh, yes. Yeah.
That my first and only introduction to Lisp was I tried to read. Let me pull it over. Oh, where's this book?
Yeah. Structure and Interpretation. Is that the one?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Awesome.
I'll get there, but it was my little mind bending. I think the cryptography book was a little easier for me to read.
Yeah. Type systems were too hard, so I settled for like I settled
for a lot of math. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I used to own a copy, but I gave it away. Like same reason. I was like looking at it, being like, oh yeah.
It came up again with what's the guy? Uncle Bob wrote Clean Code. He was interviewed with the Primogen, and he's like, well, why are you? What is the language? Closure, I think is what he's been using for a long time now. And he said it was Lisp in this book that he read that made him change his mind. And I was like, man, if I have to be on Uncle Bob's level to really understand this book, this is going to be a long journey.
I'd be. I would. How do I phrase this nicely? Generally, I don't hold Uncle Bob in high regard. Is something I would say. He says something like, "Don't be too hard on yourself." If you, yeah.
I am curious. I think chapter 3 in here was on recursion. So, just like the underworkings of that was interesting to me. My whole journey. So I don't have a computer science background. I don't know if you do, but self-taught. this website got me going on this tangent. Because we were talking before the stream of like the huge change that I had like before Microsoft and after Microsoft, and where like before I was like all PowerShell Windows, and now it's all Linux development stuff and Go.
Yes.
Which is really funny because you would think that I would stick with those things because they're all Microsoft. But there's this website, once I started to realize all my skill issues and trying to fill them, but it's Teach Yourself CS. And it's got a lot of awesome book recommendations and stuff. But it's essentially, they say like every one of these fields that we just showed you is over 100 hours of study. So pace yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And this is kind of like a lifelong learning. So there, I'll put that up for chat for people to see. But so I've been referencing that quite a bit.
Yeah. By the way, this one I can strongly recommend. They've got one in there where I'm like, oh yeah, that one rules. Like, read that. Designing Data Intensive Applications by Martin
I keep
Putnam.
hearing great things about that.
Yeah. That's one where it's like, if you've ever like worked with databases, you're like, oh yeah, I kind of get databases, but you'd like to like understand the sort of the fundamentals, but not how do I implement it myself, but sort of like, what is the design space here? Like, what decisions have different databases made? Not so much that you'll like go ahead and use it, but like, so great book, kind of like a fundamental book for everyone, I'd say. Sorry, it stood out on my list where I was like, oh yeah, no, that was a pretty good list.
Yeah, well, here, I'll pull up the other one that I shared just so people can see. Yeah, Go has forced me to actually learn about data structures as well. I'll just search for it again because I can't copy. Self-taught. Because in the higher level languages, especially in the scripting and even Python to a large degree, like all that stuff's just done for you. You don't have to like, I want to map. I don't know. I don't need to know what different types of maps are. Just give me key value pair storage. Like give me a hash map or give me a string. An int, like an int's an int. It's not 64, 32. And then when you go into like doing anything in Go, like you have to remember everything's going to be brought down to bytes, and like dealing with that.
Yes.
So yeah. I've got a long reading list. That was I think I talked about this last time where I'm back on my light phone, my dumb phone.
Yeah.
And so my primary reason for that was to do a lot more reading. So I'm starting to carry books around with me instead of my phone. And just reading, more leisurely. Which these books are sometimes hard to read leisurely. But
I don't know if you care about this, but I want to give you a book recommendation. One of my favorite ones that like nobody puts on any list ever. But it's this one, The Field Guide to Understanding Human Error.
The Field Guide to Understanding Human Error. Okay.
Yeah. One of...
Tell me more.
So we're in the... Or at least... how do I say this? As if... Or what... how do... Okay. It's not a computer science book. Okay. But it is... roughly about, when we talk about software engineering, it is engineering, or it should be engineering. This is an engineering book. Okay. And it is about how failure arrives in the system. Like just the concept of like things going wrong. Like, why do they go wrong? And like very often it'll be like, oh, a plane crashed, so-and-so, let's hold the pilot accountable. But in order for the plane to be able to crash, so many things must have like gone wrong, and then the pilot couldn't, correct it or something. And like human error is oftentimes like you did it wrong, but why? But this book answers the complete context around like how was it even possible to hold it wrong, to do it wrong. It's sort of like, I don't know. I find it fascinating because it talks very directly about building reliable systems through context, through...
I love books. It sounds like this is similar, that they give you a mental model to use that's practical through like many different applications, like it's a more philosophy, like at higher level. than just like, here's how you can create this particular thing in this language.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Reminds me of one of my favorite tweets of all time,
Okay.
which was like about this topic, which was like attributing like system failure to human error is like attributing a building collapsing to gravity.
Hmm.
Where it's like, yeah, humans make errors. That's a given. Like, you know, it's everything
Gravity pulls
around that.
things down to the earth. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that's why I like this book, because it's like we all too often we're in charge of building reliable systems, but we don't think about reliability as a standalone concept. We don't have the even like the words to properly describe it and frame it and like talk through the implications of it. And so we then use, you know, framings that other people that come up. And I don't know. That's why this.
All right. I'll add it to my list.
Okay, sorry.
Let's see here. Let me just pull it up. I'll have to switch my screens. This is how much I've been enjoying being in my terminal. All my notes. So I went down. We could start this another time because it'll be a long conversation. But I did like a deep dive in note-taking tools a while back. So was it reading list? But here's where I've come. This is what this is what I'm settled on now, is text files in my terminal.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got my reading list here. I love this concept of I learned from Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. I've read all of his books, big fan of his. Like Author of Deep Work is probably his most well-known book. But he has this concept of rest projects. Not Rust project, but rest project. So essentially you deliberately, after you've done kind of like a harder, more intense project deadline you've carried across, you deliberately choose a lower effort task. It kind of gives yourself a rest, but also a snack. And so what I've done with my reading, typically I overload it. Like, here's everything I want to learn, and I'm not going to reward myself until I get through everything I said I want to do. So I have a little research spike to get back into Kubernetes and learn more about the API server. So I'm doing some syntopical reading where you kind of grab a bunch of books and you pick out the chapters that are relevant to your specific need. But then afterwards, I want to get a little bit better with TMUX. So I'm going to read a TMUX book. And so they're like, I'm separating my reading list into semesters, and then I'm giving myself like little reading snacks, things that I'm just curious about and have more motivation to learn, that aren't directly related to any kind of other goal, just other than I'm curious. So I'll add your book into one of those rest slots.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. If you end up reading it, I'd be super curious about your take on it.
We should do a live stream review of it.
Ooh, yeah, I'm down. Like, absolutely.
And still other people on the idea of it. All right.
That's really fun. I'm surprised you're like approaching it sort of like linearly, where I notice, or you mentioned you have ADHD. Like most people with ADHD I know, they do a scattershot approach. They're like, yeah, here's 7 books. I'm going to read all of them at the same time in a single sitting, and then we're done.
Yeah. So yeah, I use the list as the intent is to mitigate the overwhelmingness that I get in that phase. So it's kind of like a fail safe. I almost guarantee you I won't follow that list. It's an intent to structure it. And the way that it helps me is like, okay, the theme that I extract from that in my brain is read Kubernetes first. Like that's the most relevant to your work project. And then I do that to just kind of give me a direction. But I'll probably be ending up on something else next week. But yeah, I definitely do that same thing. But yeah, it's a tactic that I've developed to try to combat being overwhelmed in my brain, where I like have 40 books that I want to read.
Yeah.
But okay, back to here.
Yes.
Well, we've got 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left.
I appreciate you sharing that about the books, by the way. It's always like fun to like learn more about how people like they manage like their own things where they're like, yeah.
Oh, do you have any, while we're on there, I'm just curious, do you have any other different approaches? Do you just kind of like wander through? That's where I'd like to get. So my ideal would be like, I just have this beautiful bookshelf. I buy books when I feel inspired and they sit there. And then I'm like, I've got an hour today. I'm just going to grab one and I'm going to read a couple pages and just like walking through life, reading good books and then letting it absorb. Um, that's what I'd like to get to. Definitely not there, but like, what's your reading habit like and how do you structure it?
I don't read enough is the TLDR. Like I've got all these beautiful books and I then don't read them for the most part unless it's the only thing I do. Then I'll be somewhere and I'll just be in my book and that is the only thing. It's very like feast or famine like for me. So I'm like
That's a good
I,
analogy.
I'm appreciating your like little the method you're sharing the methodology that you're applying because I'm like, oh, maybe I can learn something from that. Because like yeah.
The trick is, so I wrote kind of have you ever heard of How to Read a Book by
Uh,
Mortimer Adler?
no, I feel like maybe you've mentioned it, but I haven't read
So
it. No.
it opened my eyes a ton to how wrongly I was approaching reading in general.
Yeah.
So much so that I actually wrote a short book that tried to
Oh,
summarize, and that's like writing to learn. So I wrote a short book called, I think it's called Reading Well. It's on Amazon for like $1 or something like that. And it's basically a summary of his work,
okay.
and like in practical terms. So if you were to take all of his 300, 400 page book and condense it down, I think I did it in 30 something pages,
Okay.
um, and just extract out the practical, like
Okay.
what you could implement. That's what that is about. But that helped me a ton, and one, understanding the value, but also giving me more tools, so that way I'm more likely to pick up a book. So an example of
Mm.
that is, before I read How to Read a Book, I felt compelled to, when I pick up a book, I read it like I would like a 7th grade science textbook, where it's start to finish.
Oh
I need
yeah.
to understand every chapter before I move on.
Hmm.
If I don't complete it, I feel bad until it sits there so long that I just don't do it. And so
Yeah.
there's 3 different styles of reading that he lays out in the book. One is systematic skimming, where you kind
Hmm.
of, it gives you methodologies to look through it to see, like, is this worth your time to like dive
Right.
into, right? And then the next one would be, um, I think it's level 2, and then the next one would be analytical reading, where you do kind of approach it like you're studying for an exam, and you're highlighting things, and you're trying to define words and define what the author's terms are. He calls it coming to terms with the author.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's, I think I'm missing one. One of the other ones in my mind that I remember is syntopical, where I just mentioned like, hey, there's
Yeah.
this, I know enough about this domain that I don't need to read a book cover to cover, but I
Right.
have some gaps, and I know that gap is, for me with Kubernetes, the API server.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab 7 books. And this is probably what a lot of the ADH people that,
Yeah. Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
is they grab like 7 books and they're like, I need to know this thing. And so then
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
read it, and then they come to terms across several bodies of work
Uh-huh.
to improve their understanding of specific things.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
that's syntopical reading. Um, I think I get the 4th one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it gave me a lot of really good tools to improve reading. Um,
Yeah.
and then the only trick for reading more is to carry your book around everywhere.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's super fun. Like here's my reading style. It's called guilt. I buy a book, I read the first 3 pages, and then I put it down, and then I feel guilty for the remainder of ever because I don't pick it back up, and I'm like, "I should have read that book." I like your approaches better, so I might apply those.
Well,
Yeah.
there's this really great, I guess, go on this tangent. Well, I guess we can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
finish out
yeah.
with it. One thing that might help you is, there's this concept that he has in the book called the pyramid of books.
Uh-huh.
And so he says, in your life, or of all the books in the world, they all exist on this pyramid, and everybody's pyramid's a little bit different because we have different
Yeah.
interests and different things that are useful to us, etc. And he said, like the magazines and the fluff of the world, as he calls it,
Yeah.
are all on the bottom of the pyramid, and they make up the vast majority. Probably 80, 90% of the literature is in this,
Yeah.
like, might be entertaining to consume, but not
Mhm.
super useful, right?
Mhm.
And that's not to include things that you thoroughly enjoy, like say you have a nonfiction book that, or a fiction book that you really enjoy. That's not in that mix. That's like newspapers, things that are very temporary, or just, like candy, like
Yeah.
this is what you can buy for
Uh-huh.
whatever dollars. And then above you've got this progression. And then he kind of like gives you some heuristics of, you might have some books in the middle that you need to read once, and then you never need to touch them again. And then at the very top, there are, like maybe 100 books in your entire life will be at this top, if you read your entire life. And he calls them inexhaustible books. They're the books that you can go back to over and over again and learn something new from them every single time. And so, but that is going to be, of course, over your entire lifespan, like maybe 100 books. He says probably 10. For most people, it's probably less than 10 books are going to be in that little bracket. So you really shouldn't feel bad letting go of, like, if it didn't catch your attention and if you use the systematical skimming and you've got an idea of the entire book, and it really doesn't add much value to you, then it's actually it costs you time that you don't want to spend, and you shouldn't feel guilty, is his point. Because you should search constantly for higher up medium stack books, and you can kind of tell just as you develop your tastes and what's useful, or the inexhaustible ones. And so that helped me a lot with like, oh, okay, well, I thought I'd read this book, but it's just not panning out. It's not useful to me.
Okay.
And like this, like it could be even like tiny little details, like the author really, I don't agree with his viewpoint, I don't like his tone, all those reasons could be valid to just drop it.
I like that. Thank you. As far as tangents go, this was a really good one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can't really show it right now, but I've got an entire bookshelf here. Half of the books I haven't read, but I want to because I know they're good. But now I'm like, maybe I'll just open it to like a chapter that seems interesting. I'll just read that and put it back down after.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Exactly.
So there's also this blog post I like called The Anti-Library, subtitle The Power of Unread Books. So that'll be an interesting short read for you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I mean, it sounds interesting.
Yeah. Nestleft has got a lot cool. Again, I went down like huge productivity. Dipping back into that space. I've calmed down a lot since my time.
Yeah.
It's trying to be a productivity guru, but
right. No, I appreciate it. Like, it's interesting.
But thanks, do you know who Jeffrey Snover is?
Nope, no idea.
So he invented PowerShell.
Okay.
He was
you've mentioned him.
Yeah, technical fellow here at Microsoft. He works at Google now. But I got to interview him last year, I think, and I loved what he said about reading. I said, so because he's an avid reader. And I said, well, why do you read? And he said, because when I was little, my father said, anything you want to learn in the world can be found in a book. And so that just stuck with him his entire life. And he's just been, an avid reader since. And I was like, that's so true. Like anything you really want to learn, you can read from a book, find out how to apply. I do. So I like the sentiment of it. That's why I'm such a proponent of reading. But
yeah. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like there's so much stuff that's like just not explored and you can just come up with yourself.
That's true. I think you can learn about different domains enough to give you competence to do that type of exploring.
Yeah. But I like the idea more than taking it literally, where it's like anything.
Yeah, I think it's more so that it's be taken literally. Because it also, if you were to take that literally, you'd fall into like tutorial hell type trap.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And no, okay. Sorry, you've like given me stuff to think about. Thanks, man.
Usually it's the other way around. I'm like, oh, it's way lower level computing than I'm used to.
But I like it. But like you got to show me the project you're working on, which is like really cool. And then we like went on mega tangent. Oh yeah, you got to show me like the latest developments like NeoVim, which is also really cool. And now like about the like how to read. And I'm like, oh, that's also really cool. So just a showcase of like great stuff. Thank you.
I expect NeoVim to be installed on your system by the real Friday.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I'd like to. If I could, I would, but I can't, so it won't.
Priorities.
Yes. Josh the philosopher. Yes, indeed. All right.
That's probably a good wrap. I think we got Got to stop at the top of the hour. So yeah, it's kind of a. I thought this was Friday, so that's why today was so scattered. Again, back to that. But yeah, I've enjoyed this stream. This has been a lot of good stuff. Next time, we'll figure out what we're going to do next time throughout the week. We've got a couple days, and I'll make sure that it's updated in the post. So everybody, I appreciate you jumping in chat. Love that it's been lively today. It's good to see everybody that joined. And with that, we'll kind of leave it, and we'll be back again Friday, the real Friday.
The real Friday. Yes, Friday 2, the sequel
and now
to
I'm
Friday
so
1.
depressed that I have a whole work week ahead of me.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You're probably looking forward to the weekend.
Reality. Yeah, it's okay. I'll survive.
All right.
Thank you for your time, Yash. We'll catch you next time.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Talk soon.